Do you think you are living in reality? Are we living in a world of illusion? What if I told you that the world is not as you see it? And what's more, what if I told you that someone said this more than 2,000 years ago? You know, like in the movie Matrix? Well, there is an ancient Greek philosopher called Plato who has some ideas about our reality. And it turns out he explained everything 2,400 years ago. So let's talk about it. Welcome to Pill for Philo, the place where great minds come to think and discuss practical philosophy. Today, we are going to look at Plato's theory of ideas. But do me a favor, hit subscribe. It really helps me out. And here we go. So, Plato was an ancient Greek philosopher who lived from 428 to 348 BC. He was a student of Socrates and a teacher of Aristotle. Now, Plato's theory of ideas is also known as his theory of forms, or his theory of the world of ideas. It is one of the most influential philosophical theories of all time. Now, according to Plato, there are two worlds, the sensible world and the intelligible world. The sensible world is the physical world that we can experience with our senses. This is the world of things that we can see, touch, hear, smell, and taste. On the other hand, the intelligible world is the world of abstract concepts, and Plato believed that this is the real world. This is the world of perfect and eternal forms, such as justice, beauty, and goodness. You see, Plato believed that the things we see in the sensible world are just shadows or reflections of the true reality which exists in the intelligible world. So, Plato uses an analogy of a cave to explain this concept. Imagine a group of people who have been chained up in a cave, their entire lives facing a blank wall. All they have ever seen is the wall and believe that the wall is real and represents the world. One day, one of the prisoners breaks free and discovers that the wall is actually just a projection screen for a fire behind them. The prisoner realizes that the images on the wall are not real, but are being created by the fire. The prisoner then goes on to discover the outside world and realizes that the real world is far more complex and beautiful than the images he saw in the cave. Upon returning to the cave, the prisoner tries to tell the other prisoners about the outside world and the true nature of their reality, but they don't believe him. They think he is crazy. Now, Plato uses this story to illustrate the idea that we are all like prisoners in a cave, chained up by our senses and our perception of the world. We think that the things we see and experience are real, but in fact, they are just shadows or reflections of the true reality. Now, Plato believed that the true reality is the intelligible world of ideas, and that the things we see in the sensible world are just copies of those ideas. For example, we may see a beautiful sunset and think that it is beautiful. But according to Plato, it is actually the idea of beauty that we are responding to. The sunset itself is just a physical phenomenon. It is the idea of beauty that makes us perceive it as beautiful. So, why does Plato think that we live in a world of illusion? Well, he believed that the reason we live in a world of illusion is because we are limited by our senses. Our senses can only perceive the physical world, and the physical world is just a copy of the true reality. Therefore, we are essentially seeing a copy of a copy. Now, Plato also believed that our intellect is much more powerful than our senses. We can use our intellect to understand the abstract concepts and forms that exist in the intelligible world. However, most people do not use their intellect to its full potential. Instead, they rely on their senses and the things they see and experience in the physical world. So now you might be wondering, how do we escape from this world of illusion? According to Plato, the first step to escaping the world of illusion is to use our intellect to understand the true nature of reality. We need to realize that the things we see in the physical world are just copies of the true reality. Once we understand this, we can start to see through the illusions of the physical world and start to perceive the true reality. The second step is to practice mindfulness and be aware of our senses. Our senses can deceive us and lead us to believe that the physical world is real. Therefore, we need to be aware of our senses and not rely on them completely. By practicing mindfulness, we can start to detach ourselves from the physical world and start to see through the illusions. All right. So how can we apply this theory to our modern life? Well, there are many ways. For example, we can use it to understand fake news and propaganda. When we read something in the news or on social media, we need to ask ourselves whether it is the truth or just a reflection of someone else's agenda. We need to be aware of our own biases and not let them cloud our judgment. Another way we can apply this theory is by being more aware of our consumption habits. We are constantly bombarded with advertisements and marketing messages telling us that we need to buy more stuff. Doing things to post on social media and trying to convince others that we live a life worthy of being followed on social media. In fact, social media was created as a kind of prison so that you stay in a loop watching ads, memes, and videos that won't help you evolve. You become addicted to watching for the sake of watching, but they almost never talk about becoming better, about delivering something of value to the world, whatever that may be. However, we need to ask ourselves whether we really need those things or just want them because they have been cleverly marketed to us. So, when we buy things just for the sake of buying them, we are feeding into the illusion of the physical world. And the last way we can apply this theory is by being more aware of our interactions with others. We often judge people based on their appearance or what we hear about them. However, we need to remember that these are just reflections of who they are and may not be the whole truth. We should always try to look beyond the surface and see the true nature of things and people. Now, I know that all this talk about reality and illusion can be quite confusing and challenging to wrap your mind around. It is a big topic. However, I hope that this video has given you some insight into Plato's theory of ideas and how it can be applied to our modern life. Remember, the things we see in the physical world are just copies of the true reality. Therefore, we need to use our intellect to see through the illusions and understand the true nature of reality. If you like this video, please hit the like button. If you haven't already done so, hit subscribe. Also, leave a comment down below. I love reading them all. And if you want to watch another video I made that you might like, click right here. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.